John, we apparently have a mutual friend that said, I am not going to be happy after I talk to you.
I heard you may be a little bit disappointed today.
Here's the thing. I didn't know which way you were going to play this. When I got that text, John, and I don't think he'll mind, it was the voice of Monday Night Football. It was Joe Tessitore who said, you got to talk to John Parry. I didn't know which way you'd go, man. After listening to Mike Pereira on the Fox broadcast, I thought, I'm always up for being tweaked. I'm always up for getting my anger, inflamed. But I didn't know if that meant John Parry telling me it was a bad call or actually trying to tell me like Mike Pereira did, those tripping calls were actually good calls. So which way is it, John?
Well, let's start with the second one. You get inside 2 minutes. It's a tight game. They have fought for 2 hours and 55 minutes. It's going down to one drive. At the 2-minute break, as a crew chief, you get together with your troops and say, listen, we've worked a good game. If you're going to interject yourself, make it huge. Let the players determine the outcome of this football game. The second trip and the first trip, to me, are almost identical. Great defensive rush, gets a blocker off balance, does a leg lift, yes. But for tripping, back there as a referee and an umpire, you're looking for something that is intentional, something that is overt, a leg that is lifted, a leg that is whipped to create a trip. And in both of those, unfortunately, I don't think either one exists.
So does intention matter, John, like in a crime? Is it really like, was he trying to trip somebody? Does that matter in you guys and your application of the rules?
Well, the intentional part is, what does that leg do? Is it intentionally lifted? In both of those cases, in fact, the second one, you could almost argue that the right knee of the defender contacts the right knee of the blocker, which forces the leg back rather than an overt trip with the bottom of the leg.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I think we all, common sense-wise, know what a trip looks like. And I think if that's tripping, what you're asking the offensive linemen in the NFL to do is plant their feet. That's not what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to shuffle, move their feet. And those guys are being driven backwards and kind of just being driven with the play in both cases, in Travis Frederick and Tyron Smith. So you're telling me you agree, bad calls?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't like either one of them. And I think when they evaluate the film this week, Monday, Tuesday, regarding those games, based on 19 years in this league, based on 12 years of being back there, based on making that call, which I didn't make too many times, but when I did, there was no doubt there was an overt action which created a trip, like at the playground. When you're a kid, you purposely try to trip somebody. I don't think either one of those rose to that level.
John, can I ask you, this is just driven out of my own personal curiosity in watching these games. I mean, anyone that listens knows this. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'm willing to accept you see things through the lens of fandom from time to time. But I brought this up earlier in the show. Tyron Smith is generally regarded as one of the best offensive linemen in the league, not just in athleticism and size, but in technique. And I've never seen somebody with such a high reputation seemingly get such low-quality calls made against them. If I look at how often he's called for various infractions, be it tripping or holding, Tyron Smith, you would think, is a really not very good offensive lineman.
Well, your Cowboys have a great reputation up front. They have, for year after year after year, put some big horses up there with great technique to block for those guys back there. So I see your point.
Let me ask you this, John. I heard Rex Ryan this morning. Again, we're talking to John Parry, ESPN's Monday Night Football rules analyst. Wait. I got to follow that up. Does reputation factor in? I know we're talking about human beings, right? It's men on the field. They're human beings. They have that yellow flag in their belt. Does reputation factor in? Whoa, that's Tyron Smith. Or whoa, is that intentional granted? That's Tom Brady. He knows what he's doing. How much weight does reputation carry as you're making those, in-the-moment calls?
We answer this question periodically. And let me tell you, as an official, you prep all week for formations, tendencies, what to prepare for on a Sunday afternoon. When the game kicks off, there are 22 players on the field. They are all numbers. There are no names. It's a quarterback 12. It's a quarterback 9. It's a left guard 72. At that point in the game, in the heat of the battle, you're focused on position and number rather than name. So the answer to that is absolutely not.
Okay. ESPN Monday Night Football analyst rules analyst John Parry here on the Will Cain Show. Now let me get to this, which Rex Ryan brought up this morning on Get Up. He said the tripping specifically calls actually started earlier in the week. He is suggesting that Bill Belichick would have sent tape in to Al Riveron. That would have been communicated down. Let's make sure we watch for this. And on game day, Belichick would have approached the officiating crew and said, I hope we're all watching. This is going to go down. Do you think something like that might have come into play and influenced the officials?
Well, that happens every week, every team, 32 teams across the board. You know, you get to the game site on Saturday as a crew, you prepare. You may or may not get a phone call from New York, specifically Al Riveron, to let you know, hey, the head coach from X has called, and he just wanted to make sure that I mentioned to you to take a look at this. When we probably have already discussed it in our pregame. Sunday comes, there's conversations with both coaches, and yes, every coach will bring up something. Hey, make sure we're taking a look at this. Our receivers are getting grabbed off the line of scrimmage. They can't run their route. But I don't know. In this case, I'd hate to speak to Coach Belichick or to New York to say, hey, they brought up, take a look at these Dallas linemen. They trip often. I've watched multiple Dallas games. I've yet to see one.
You've yet to see one what? One trip?
One trip.
We're so glad you're watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, make sure you subscribe to ESPN Plus. We'll see you there.